OPEC decides to do one thing, OPEC decides to do something, we just have to accept it and we just have to take it. What we did, as I said, but if I remember correctly, and actually I was part of the effort, was when the 1973 oil crisis hit. What we tried to do was to make more beneficial arrangements. Like I remember, I was sent on a mission by my father, together with then Secretary Velasco of Energy, and we discussed with Saudi Arabia and all the other oil-producing countries that we buy oil from to lengthen the payback period from, I think it was 90 days to 180 days. And we were able to manage that, which medyo talagang naging mas maganda ang sitwasyon, because also we were very worried at that time of our foreign reserves. So that helped very much in the situation, in the management of the oil crisis in 1973. I think that we can also consider what is happening now as another oil crisis. And that's why we will see if we can do that. Marami naman tayong kaibigan na siguro naman handang tumulong. At I think that the relationship that has been formed with countries in the Middle East, oil producers in the Middle East, by our OFWs, will help us, because meron na silang experience sa Pilipino. At marami na tayong, we have many dealings already with them. Maybe we can open these negotiations. And on the ground here, again, I was at the very beginning, even before Ukraine, we were watching the oil and gas prices just going up and up and up and up. And I proposed, I said, why do we not subsidize the importation of all energy products? And we did the numbers, and the truth of the matter is we cannot afford it. We cannot do that. So we have to choose the sectors. I've mentioned transport before. Is one, because it's the first hit, but of course, you know, pag pinag-usapan na presyo ng langis ay naapektuhan lahat. But I think we will just have to choose the areas that we can support, that we can afford to support, because of course we'd like to support all of them, but we, as I said, we cannot afford it. So we will have to find different ways, a more focused approach doon sa mga talagang na malaki ang component ng kanilang cost of doing business, malaki ang component ng presyo ng langis. Iba-iba naman yan sa iba't ibang sektor. And then also there's a time element to all of this, na yung iba tinamaan na kaagad. Yung iba baka 6 months down the road pa, baka meron pa tayong saka na natin, huwag na muna natin i-prioritize yun, dito na muna tayo sa tinamaan na. So, and then kasama dyan sa analysis na yan, sino ba talaga yung kailangan natin para buhayin natin ang ekonomiya. So mag-focus din tayo doon, baka doon tayo tutulong para bumulusok ang economic activity doon sa area para matulungan ang ating economic recovery.
Right. This is our last round. We have time for only 2 more questions, Mr.
That was fast.
Yes.
Extend natin, sir. If you want. Sir, sa Kuryente, ERC Chair De Banadera nag-suggest na tanggalin daw sana po ninyo ang 12% VAT on the generation charge, at ang buwisan is yung distribution charge lang para bumaba po yung singil sa kuryente. Your thoughts on that, sir?
That's one of the things we're looking at. Meron talagang pwedeng we in each, even on the spot market, in the transmission charge, there are areas that pwede pa nating ibaba. So again, I've been talking to some of the producers, yung ating sa energy production side natin. Willing naman sila, naintindihan naman nila that this is an emergency situation. And of course, you mentioned now the ERC. We have to be very strict in enforcing IPIRA. But beyond that, we also have to look at possible amendments to IPIRA. Dahil medyo na-outdated na yung ibang provisions sa IPIRA. Kasi nagbago na yung sistema. Just the division between production, transmission, and distribution, that was IPIRA was supposed to take care of that. Pero iba yung nangyari. So we have to look into that law. But yeah, meron kaming nakikita, baka may makuha dito, baka may makuha riyan, baka may makuha dito para ibaba kagad ang presyo ng gasolina, ng crudo, ng gas. The problem is, kasi ang production side naman natin when it comes to energy, it's more or less in line with the rest of the world. So it's in the system. There are problems that are inherent in the system, the way it has evolved. So kailangan talaga natin balikan. And the key there will be IPIRA. And we already have a team doing just that, looking to see where we can reduce the price of petroleum goods, number one. And what changes we have to make in terms of legislation, in terms of policy, to make the whole system more efficient, despite the fact that the prices of oil keep going up. We may there is the other issue when it comes to energy, in that we have made commitments internationally to reduce our dependence on, first of all, coal, and to replace it with renewables. But when we first tried to do that, right after COP26, if you remember, the whole world tried to do it, wala palang kapalit yung coal. Hindi pa ready yung renewables. So, tignan natin yun. We have to also determine the mix of renewables. The renewables to traditional. Diyan na pumapasok ang usapan ng nuclear. Because if you look at statistics, look at it, tanggalin muna natin yung mga politika. Tingnan natin talaga ang data. Nuclear remains to be the cleanest and cheapest way to produce energy. The problem is that the lead time for any power plant, not only nuclear, is minimum yata 5 years. So matagal yan. So in the transition, we have to find another source, a cleaner source of energy. So maybe gas will be the transition. Yung gas is cleaner than coal. It is as clean as it's going to get. But until we are able to sufficiently increase our power production through renewables, we have to find the pantawid from purely traditional to the new mix of renewables and traditional. So energy is hard. Talaga, ako aminin ko sa inyo, energy is hard. We really the world situation, the local situation, the way that we have evolved our systems, it can be quite complicated. So we have to really come up with some good strategies there. But in general, we have begun to see areas where that may potential na dyan tayo kukuha, may baba natin ang presyo ng singil sa kuryente. Okay?
Last question.
Yeah, sir, on foreign policy.
Okay.
Yung may patuloy po mga reports ng incursions, even spying sa internal waters ng Pilipinas. Ano ho ang magiging position ninyo with regard to asserting our sovereignty in the region? What is your position on the arbitral ruling, and how will you enforce it?
Well, in terms of sovereignty, there is no wiggle room there. Our sovereignty is sacred. We will not compromise it in any way. We are a sovereign nation with a functioning government, so that we do not need to be told by anyone how to run our own country. So that's essentially sovereignty, self-determined in the Philippines. So again, there is no room for negotiation there. It is sacred and inviolable. So that is my approach to Philippine sovereignty. I have already said this before. Considering in the West Philippine Sea that there have been these conflicts, we will not allow a single square, and even make it smaller, a single square millimeter of our maritime, coastal, and up to we are 200 kilometers rights to be trampled upon. And how do we do this? We strengthen our. We are talking when let's not traipse around it. We're talking about China. And how do we do that? We talk to China consistently, with a firm voice. And we say that hindi naman natin pwedeng girahin. At ang gusto ba natin gawin yun? Manggigera pa tayo ngayon, papasok pa tayo sa gera. That's the last thing we need right now. So we have to continue to discuss with them the conflicting claims that we have with China and that China has with other members of ASEAN. And I think ASEAN is still going to be a very critical part of that discussion, of that. But nonetheless, we also have to continue to pursue bilateral contact and communication with China. In fact, this is what I mentioned when I spoke to President Xi. When he called me to congratulate me on winning the election. I immediately went and I said that we have to continue to talk about this. We cannot be allowed to. This cannot be allowed to fester and to become more severe in terms of a problem between our two countries. So that's why in foreign policy, the Americans now, of course, have a very strong global interest, strategic interest in the region with the rise of China and their view that the West Philippine Sea is a critical part of the trade routes, which it is, and that's why it's so important. Trade routes for shipping in the region. So we are a small player amongst very large giants in terms of geopolitics. So we have to ply our own way. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I do not subscribe to the old thinking of the Cold War, where we had the spheres of influence, where you were under the Soviet Union or you were under the United States. I think that we have to just find an independent foreign policy where we are friends with everyone. It's the only way. The closest part of China to my province, Ilocos Norte, is 600 kilometers away. We have to be good neighbors, and we ask them to be good neighbors to us as well. It was of mutual benefit to our countries. Now, the role that the United States is going to play, well, we define that role very simply. It comes from our traditional relationship with the United States, which has been very strong and very advantageous to both of us, both the United States and the Philippines, over the past 100 or so years. So that's how we define that. So we must maintain that balance. I think we are not. I don't think we are the only country that's having to do that. And again, the partnerships that we make within the region, ASEAN primarily, are going to be of critical importance when it comes to that. So we have to make those. As I told the ambassadors when they came, not only economically but geopolitically, as we emerge from the pandemic and the crisis that it brought, we have to form alliances and partnerships, because no country can do this, can recover or can change foreign policy on their own. Can change the geopolitical situation on their own. And that's why we have to forge partnerships. And those are the partnerships that will keep things stable. And that's my belief and that's my approach.
Last na lang po yung arbitral ruling. Patuloy po ba natin to igigit?
Ay, hindi na natin. Nasa atin na yung arbitral ruling. So we will, of course, we have a very important ruling in our favor, and we will use it to continue to assert our territorial rights. It's not a claim; it is already our territorial right, and that is what the arbitral ruling can do to help us.
Ma'am?
We have
Last.